To Ms. Kalinka Gaber, the State Secretary for European Affairs from North Macedonia, and I understand that in your structure you have a secretariat for European integration, and you are the head of that secretariat. If I am mistaken, please correct me, but now the floor is yours, please.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for also shedding light a bit on our structure. Indeed, the Secretariat is the main horizontal coordinative body of the government for EU issues. It is headed by the Deputy Prime Minister. I'm second in line. Thank you again for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm delighted to be part of this forum. I would like to thank you for keeping the focus on the Western Balkans and our path to the EU. We might be geographically distant, but our common history, plights, and strives, and individual paths and challenges, I believe, put us on the same side because we do share common values and vision. North Macedonia and Lithuania are comparable in many ways in terms of size and population, our common history of being part of bigger unions or federations. In many ways, the Baltic countries were the go-to model for countries of the region. In 2004, when Lithuania ceded to the European Union, we applied for membership. So 17 years have passed. You have gone through the process, matured and changed significantly under the auspices of the European Union, while we're still discussing about opening this accession talks. And this is a frustration, of course, but we will not lose our focus into advancing to the destination we strive for and achieving our strategic goals. The enlargement policy has been hailed, of course, as the EU's most successful foreign policy tool. And even though there are voices which have questioned the transformative power of the EU in the past decade, I believe that enlargement is still the tool to consolidate the democratic transitions, to encourage difficult reforms, and to strengthen freedoms and fundamental rights. I think the question to why enlargement matters is pretty simple. It is enlargement, the efforts and the strives of prospective countries made under strict conditionalities, established under the various rounds of enlargement, that remind the Union of its founding principles, of its founding values. And it is a policy that is a reflection of the long way the European communities have gone through since the coal and steel community was established in 1951. North Macedonia's path to the EU, of course, has been a thorny, I would say, endeavor, because besides being the first country of the Western Balkans to sign the Stabilization and Association Agreement back in 2001, we had a steep mountain to climb. And here I refer to the name dispute with Greece. We managed to overcome with the Prespa Agreement the challenges to the democratic practices and norms that enabled us to mature in the process, the painful reforms and the political capital that was invested in this process of Europeanization of the country. And yet, we are the prime example of EU's failure to deliver on its promises. The government went great lengths to accommodate all the conditions, and it has been doing and delivering for a number of years now. Only to find itself isolated and left to deal with the repercussions of EU's decisions, providing that the weakened process of European integration threatens to leave us more disintegrated than ever. We just come from a successful confidence vote in Parliament yesterday for the government, and this is also partly a result of the failed delivery of the promises made by the European Union. More than a year and a half since the Council's decision to start accession talks with North Macedonia and Albania, We are still in the waiting room due to a blockade by a member state based on requirements that are contrary to the founding pillars of the European Union established and enshrined in Article 2 of the Treaty of the European Union. The veto, however, is not only blocking our path and our neighbors' path, it's also blocking the European policy in the region. And I want to send this message out loud and clear from this room as well. It undermines the credibility of the Union and the public trust. Just a little footnote, support for the EU in North Macedonia has never, ever dropped under 75% in the 3 decades we've been an independent state. The last Balkan barometer poll puts it at 53. And this is really problematic, not only for the country, but I believe also for the EU, because it goes contrary to the merit-based principle or EU's own adversity to allow bilateral disputes and issues imported into the accession process. Even the countries that have had in the past or are known as historically having the strictest approach towards EU accession and enlargement have no doubt that North Macedonia deserves, and Albania of course, to start accession talks because we have fulfilled all the conditions that were set by the European Commission. In other words, we did the strict, it's about time we get to the fair. But it's not only about the region either. The Western Balkans is the most appropriate space where the EU can make change and impact in geopolitical terms. The new enlargement methodology recognizes the geopolitical aspects of the process. The Commission calls the prospect of membership as geostrategic investment, and underlines the importance of the enlargement process, particularly at times of increased geopolitical competition. If the EU wants to be a global player, it should first become a local player. If the EU cannot make the difference in the Balkans, its own courtyard, not backyard, courtyard, it cannot make a difference further globally. The interdependence between the EU and this region goes beyond geographic proximity. We are encircled by EU member states. Events taking place in one country of the region impacts all countries, members and non-members alike. To sum up, there is a saying that status quo is Latin for the mess we are in. The political situation in North Macedonia these days shows that unfulfilled EU promises have repercussions on the domestic stability and prosperity. We do not have the luxury of maintaining the status quo. Both sides of the equation, both the EU and the Western Balkan countries alike, must do their best for the accession process to be deliverable and credible. To strengthen mutual trust, closer integration is needed. The EU should find a way to gradually include Western Balkan countries in its own strategic planning and developing its own resilience capabilities. It should and must explore all avenues for advanced integration of the Western Balkans in a period preceding accession, which goes along its commitment for phased-in accession as defined in the new methodology adopted last year. Accordingly, it would be useful to include the region in the development of EU trade and tax policies, such as carbon border adjustment mechanism and steel safeguards. Our universities could be included in the EU's higher education and research area, providing an equal chance for taking part in tailored EU programs, research and innovation. At the same time, as our agriculture is gasping for funds, it is a vast potential to expand and deliver high-quality organic produce to the EU market as well. On the side of the Western Balkan countries, the main challenge is to prove that with accession, we will bring more solutions instead of problems. The Western Balkans unfortunately comes out, its bad reputation precedes it, but we do believe that events of recent years have actually started to change this perspective. And just like we are there for the EU during the migrant crisis, for example, or any other major policy crisis that have a more bigger geographical span. One thing is for sure, the European Union is not complete without this region, and this region will never unite without the European narrative, without the European vision and the European future. This vision implies that the Western Balkans is an essential piece of the puzzle when it comes to boosting Europe's recovery, resilience, and strategic autonomy, as well as its identity, because we share civilizational, historical, and cultural values. Probably the biggest changer in this regards will be to start accession talks with North Macedonia and with Albania. Here, the key challenge is on the side of the EU to prove that it is really a union based on values and has the strength to deliver upon its decisions. All other alternatives are really more costly for both sides, and it's a scenario we really do not want to see. Thank you again for the opportunity, and I look forward to our Q&A session later.
Thank you very much. Andrey Kovatchev, a member of the European Parliament from Bulgaria and member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy, Laima, that I can join today from Brussels, and thank you to this initiative. It is very important that from the member states are also coming positive signals for the enlargement. And for sure, I can subscribe to all my colleagues what they say, how important is the enlargement process. I should remember you that 2018, during the first Bulgarian presidency, the Sofia Declaration was signed that the enlargement is always should be one of the most important priority for the European Union. This is in the interest to the country of the Western Balkans, to the citizens of the Western Balkans to become as soon as possible European citizens, but this is also of the interest of the Union from all kinds of aspects, geopolitical, infrastructure, economy, energy, whatever this is of extremely importance for us, not talking about the third players, Russia, China, Saudis, Turkey, etc. But now, I think you also invited me to say some words about the issue with Republic of North Macedonia, which is very close to my heart, and we invest a lot of this overcoming of the discrimination and hate from the past. We signed in 2017, and I was a big supporter of this 2017, this treaty for good neighborhood relations, which is a very brotherhood treaty, not compared to the Prespa agreement, which was signed with the mediation of Nimitz and the United Nations. It was a treaty by the own will of the both government and all, strength of the both sides, that we alone, without the mediation of other countries, we can overcome the communist ideology and legacy of the past, the totalitarian ideology which divided us. And Tito was a brutal dictator like Zhivkov, like all other communist dictators. This is not a European value, and I'm sorry to comment to a previous colleague from Skopje, communist ideology from the Tito time. This is not a European value. How many? You know, Laima, that in the last 10 years, it was always in the reports of the European Parliament on the accession process of Macedonia, that they should overcome the discrimination against openly declared Bulgarians and about the reconciliation and coming to the common understanding of our past, which have influence to the situation now. I like what the Serbian colleague said. We need to know our past, and we need never to repeat the terrible mistakes, the terrible suffering from the past. This is the main idea of the European Union. This is not a simple academic bilateral dispute. And please, colleagues who here now in Vilnius and online, we don't have a bilateral issue. We have a main human rights issue, which is in the base of the European Union. In the Copenhagen criteria, we have over 120,000 Bulgarians by origin who become Bulgarian citizens because they prove that their grandfather, grandmothers are from the Bulgarian origin. We saw a very sad that Zaev used this anti-Bulgarian propaganda during the second term of the elections in Skopje, when they said the candidate Arsuska have Bulgarian citizenship, like she's a traitor, she's not a good second-class person. So this is very, very sad. This is discrimination per se, and we are against this discrimination. And we expect from our friends and partners in the European Union to stand with us, that we overcome the legacy of the communism. Communism is nothing good. This is very ugly, and glorification of the communist ideology is something which we need together to overcome. And we hope that we remember that in March 2020, by the decision of the Council, was written very clear, tangible results in the implementation of the Treaty for Good Neighborhood Relations. This is unfortunately not the case. So following the decision of March 2020 of the Council, we see that we don't have tangible results. And nobody give, I hear from our dear friends and colleagues and our brother and sister and father, sometimes that somebody give to them a promise that unconditionally they will start negotiations without to make any small efforts to overcome the communist legacy. I mean, this is not the case, dear brother and sister from Vardar. We need to overcome together the legacy. In Bulgaria also was a brutal communist regime. We need to overcome this ideological stereotypes which come to now. So we are not Tatars, we are not fascists, we are not occupants, we are not assimilators, etc. This ugly legacy from the past should we never give to our new generation. We need to live in peace, we need to know the history, but we never should poison the young generation with this legacy from the past. This is what I say here, and I very much hope, either with Zaev or with Christian or with whatever, that we can have this common understanding that our European future is to be together by overcoming the legacy of the past. We need immediately to leave, now I'm going to the general issues, what we need as a European Union, we immediately to leave this visa for Kosovo. We need to start in negotiations immediately with Albania, because 27 countries are ready for this. We need to find also immediately a decision, a workable solution between Skopje and Sofia, that also the Republic of North Macedonia and our brother and sister, which are the most closely to our heart, can become as soon as possible member of the European Union and European citizens. And Bosnia and Herzegovina, what I share totally with my colleague Ivo Stier, that the Croats, they need effective electoral reform, that the Croats can elect by their own their representative in the presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina. On Serbia and Kosovo, I hope very much indeed that Prime Minister Kurti and President Vučić can start negotiations which are to be followed by an effective solution of this long-standing, very deep, and I understand also the Serbian side, how deep and emotional is this issue for them. But we are here, friends, and we in the European Union to overcome the legacy, the terrible legacy of the past. So I'm on your disposal for all kind of more deeper explanation to this situation. And please, colleagues, understand that we don't have a simple historical or academic dispute between Sofia and Skopje, how was presented by some people, or that we deny identity or language or whatever. My dear former friend Nicola Dimitrov, he tried sometimes to explain this very strange way of explanation. I'm sorry to be not very diplomatic, but this is really not good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrey. And I see that Kalinka Gaber from North Macedonia, she has a question, please.
Thank you. Well, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. I understand that Mr. Kovatchev is in pre-electoral campaign, and I really wanted to avoid introducing bilateral issue to this conference, especially because it was forward-looking, and we need to find exit solutions from the status quo and the challenges. But you will allow me a short intervention just to clear some of the aspects that were raised in his address. On the alleged discrimination, there are no claims for discrimination ahead of the Commission for Fighting Discrimination in my country. There are no cases in front of our courts. As far as I know, there are no cases in front of the European Court of Human Rights on grounds of discrimination. What there are European Court of Human Rights judgments against our neighboring country with regards to the right to assembly of its citizens, which declare themselves as being ethnic Macedonians. This is an internal Bulgarian issue. We have been very constructive of not raising this issue in our bilateral talks, but for the sake of clarity, I feel obliged to mention this. We just had census in the country. Ethnic belonging was an open-ended question, so everybody could declare himself or herself as they please. The census results are not out yet. They will be out somewhere in the beginning of next year. I don't know where this 120,000 citizens of Bulgarian origin number comes from, but it might attest that this number refers to the number of citizens of North Macedonia that acquired Bulgarian citizenship after Bulgaria acceded to the European Union, and we might consider these people might be considered in other countries as economic migrants and acquiring other citizens for European passports. Again, I'm not do not look ahead of time. We do not know the number of citizens that declare themselves as Bulgarian, so I don't really know where this number comes from. On hate speech, I don't know of an official representative of North Macedonia using openly hate speech vis-a-vis our neighbor. There was, however, a case in the previous cycle of the elections that were failed, that no government was being formed, a map showing North Macedonia as Bulgarian land. Even Mr. Kovatchev's wording today, calling me, a friend from Vardar, might be considered hate speech by some. What seems to be the case is that our neighbor invests in antagonism. You cannot really expect official rhetoric not triggering some form of reactions from the citizens of North Macedonia. I underline citizens and not officials. Who we are, what our history is, and what language we speak is a matter of self-discrimination. If history had been a condition for membership in the European Union, I don't think the Union would have existed. And if language is not in any way brought in question by our neighbors, and if it's not an issue, then I really wonder why we have been waiting to sign the Frontex agreement, which is there to secure the outside borders of the European Union, just because there is an objection on the part of our neighbor with regards to the use of the word Macedonian. On the Treaty of Good Neighborliness, there is not a single word on the so-called communist legacy in the treaty. There is, however, an Article 2, which speaks of Bulgaria's commitment to help North Macedonia advancing in its European and Euro-Atlantic path. And finally, because there was an attempt to question the recommendations for unconditional start of accession negotiations, I will just remind everybody of the unanimous EU Council 2020 decision for start of accession negotiations with North Macedonia and Albania. And it seems like the pressure that our neighbors experience from the other partners and friends of the other 26 member states of the European Union is only attesting to the isolated position they are found in. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to clarify.
Thank you very much. Andrey, would you like to take the floor? Please.
Dear Laima, thank you very much, first of all, for this open discussion and to our colleague in Skopje. So, first of all, please don't go into this trap. This is nothing to do with pre-electoral campaign. I'm not campaigning, I'm not candidate, I'm not interested in campaigning. I'm a friend of Macedonia and would like that Macedonia is becoming as soon as possible part of the European Union. Please don't stop with this anti-Bulgarian campaign, what you just said. All these arguments, in brackets, what you said is really, I don't understand why you do it. You know, Article 2 say nothing with support, say only share our experience. Please read Article 2 of the treaty. Please read and don't repeat the lies of Nicola Dimitrov and you again. It's share the expertise of Bulgaria by the accession. And secondly, we have, I mean, this is very disrespectful to your citizens with Bulgarian origin to say that 130,000 plus around 10 or 20,000 are at the moment in the process of becoming Bulgarian citizenship. All of them are liars and immigrants, economic immigrants. They prove by documents that they are coming from the Bulgarian communities in Aegean and Vardar Macedonian. Vardar Macedonian was part of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. Those days was occupied since after the First World War till 41 by the Yugoslavs. And this is historical issues and facts. They are Bulgarians by origin. And you know very, very well this ethno-genocide, what was done after 44 by the communist regime with a lot of brutalities, you try to continue. And this is what we would like to say, stop. I mean, please, we are in the European Union now. You would like to become member of the European Union. Let's overcome the legacy of Tito. And don't repeat what we heard from the past and what we hear from people who don't understand the great idea of Schuman and Monnet is to overcome the division and not to deepen the division. I mean, I really supported so much Prime Minister Zaev. I even signed for the Nobel Prize after the treaty with Prespa. I'm your friend, but please don't try to present the Bulgarian position as a pre-electoral position or this is not a party position. I'm not representing now the position of a party. This is the huge majority of almost all political forces in Bulgaria position. This has nothing to do with electoral campaign in Bulgaria. And the issue of discrimination is a very serious issue, extremely serious, which is European issue. It's not a bilateral issue. and is based also on the all resolutions of the European Parliament, which you can read from 2010 till now, March 2021, is repeating the same, that is a big disappointment about the lack of overcoming the discrimination of openly declared Bulgarians in Macedonia. Can you please tell me how many open Bulgarians you have in your ministry, or at all in the Macedonian administration, or in the judiciary system, by the police, or local administration? And if somebody is somehow recognized that he has Bulgarian identity, then he is threatened to be released from work, or to be called traitor, Tatar. And I don't like to repeat these ugly issues. You know, the German of MEP A, who called our foreign minister, I don't like to repeat the words. I mean, thanks to God, he was released by Prime Minister Zaev in the next day. But this attitude, and I know this is not to be shared in public, but I know a lot of things. And you know the deep state which Lupchut Georgievsky is calling, with all the connections with UDBA and KOS, they need to be open. And this is also to call to the European Parliament, to Serbia, to open the archives of the communist security forces, UDBA and KOS, and the respective archives to be transferred to Macedonia, to Bosnia and Herzegovina, to Croatia, and to the other countries. That we need to read our history. We need to know who is who and what is happened in the past. And the communist history was not a good history. This we need to know, and we should not repeat it. And my call is again, please try to calm down by the emotions coming from this propaganda of the Tito regime, and try to think European, that we would like to overcome the division of the past. This is the great idea of Europe, overcome the division of the past. We are not Tatars, which is written in your textbooks, that the Bulgarians are Tatar tribes coming in 600 to assimilate, I don't know whom there. I mean, you make the deal with Greek that you are not anymore from Cleopatra. But this really is something which you need really very carefully to think. And if you think that you can franchise this task to Biden administration, to Berlin, to Brussels, what I hear from you, we are under pressure, Bulgaria will give up because it's under pressure, the Americans will do the job for us, the Germans will do the job for us. Now, I don't know whom. You are in a big, big mistake. Please, this is an issue which we in Brotherhood need to overcome by our own. The Zhivkov was a terrible dictator. Tito was a terrible dictator. So we need to overcome the communist legacy in Brotherhood. This is my pleas and my pledge to you. Don't repeat what was coming from this terrible time. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrey.